Yo, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mike. I am a amateur manga artist, and I have created a few manga already. And on this YouTube channel, I like to kind of show my progress as I get closer to being published, and I like to do little videos on tips and tricks along the way as well as I pick them up. And in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you 4 different steps to rendering simple metallic material. So I hope that you enjoy the video. Let's get started. Alrighty, everyone, so the very first step is finding reference, right? And when you're finding reference, it's not just a random reference. It's references that fit the subject matter that you are trying to do. So I picked these 2 for this particular video. Now I want to kind of pull your attention towards one thing in particular, or I guess 2. One is the lighting, so right here. But the second thing is this right here, which is right below the lighting, and this is this like really dark transition that occurs. It's almost black in between your light source and the area in which your which your light source is hitting, and then the area directly after that. Metallic things have this like really cool reflective property of them, and it kind of causes this really like harsh transition between the 2, but that really sells it as being viewed as like an actual metallic substance. So that's really the first thing that I want to show you in the references, and show you how powerful references can be, because without this you might not necessarily really know how to properly do metal in a way that's going to be at least semi-realistic enough to portray that it is metal. Alrighty, so now we're going to go to step 2. Alright, so we have cloud as the model for this one, but step 2, as you can see, is the flats. So when you're doing your flats, one thing that you want to think about is what color is the metal if there was no really bright light being shined on it. So I went with this this gray that's kind of it's a little cool, but it's got this, it's like a medium gray, right? Here, let me do the color picker and I can kind of show you. So actually it's warm, I misspoke. But this gray, as you can see, it's almost directly in the middle. It's slightly below the middle. But I chose that on purpose, and that was because I thought that it would be easier to go darker and to shine the light on it as well. So maybe my reference isn't perfect, but it's close enough, right? So that's just, flats are pretty simple. And also for this particular tutorial, I will only be focusing on the metals, so I'm not going to shade the entirety of cloud. I can maybe do at the very end of the video everything done, so you can kind of see how it all fits together, but for this video I'll just be focusing on the metal itself. Alrighty, moving on to step 3. So step 3 is lighting. As you can see, I am highlighting the kind of layer that I just pointed out. You want to use hard light for your layer for lighting. So for this particular piece, it's not necessarily the most important thing, because the light source is white. So when you have a white light source, you can just use white on a regular layer and you'll get a pretty good effect still. But it is good practice to use the hard light layer type, just because it will allow for stuff to appear shiny in other colors as well. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just going around the outside of my, the shoulder piece and the gauntlet piece down below, or whatever you want to call that, and just kind of highlighting the outside. The reason why I do that is because typically the edges of things, and I'll get to this point in a little bit, but the edges of things that are metallic typically have a really good shine, and it's also good to have rim lighting just in general for your characters. It helps set a little bit of a mood. So now what I'm doing is I'm kind of going through each one of those rings is at like a different level. So if it's a ring that's a little smaller, typically the metal will be, the shine on that will be further away. And if it's larger, it'll be a little closer towards us. And then I'm doing the same thing with the shoulder armor right here. It's just making it shine right in the middle where that light source is hitting. So now what I'm getting ready to go through and do is I'm getting ready to light up the edges of these rings down here in just a second. Right now I'm just kind of fumbling around and trying to make it so that these little segments are really, really bright where that light's hitting. But as you can see, I'm going through, actually you probably can't see because my thumb's in the way, sorry about that. But I'm going through and I'm really highlighting those edges. If you look back at the reference from earlier, you can see that the edges of that shoulder piece were really, really shining, and that's because those edges, they stick out pretty close to the light source, so they're going to be the edges or the pieces of the metal that shine the brightest, right? So that's something to think about, and I kind of am showing that right here, right? You can kind of see just those very edges up above. They're really, really shiny, in comparison to the rest of the stuff, besides where the light source is directly hitting on the rounded pieces. So that's something that you'll want to take into account as you are doing your light source, but light sources are pretty simple overall. So finally, we're getting to shading. So remember that piece that I told you that was super important earlier with the shading, and that piece is that transition between the light and the darkness, and the rest of the metal. So what you'll want to do is in those areas where the light is hitting and then it's going away, you're going to want to darken that up quite a bit. And what that does is it creates this really nice metallic feel to it. One thing that I did do wrong, and I go back and do it in just a second as you're going to see me use the loop tool, is I forgot to first do bigger shading and then go to the smaller shading. That's something that you do want to do. Luckily, this piece is so tiny, it's not really that big of a mistake for me to make, but I just needed to go back through and make sure that I did the overall shading instead of just doing the smaller shading, because it didn't look right. I guess you could do that stylistically and it probably wouldn't be horrible, but I would recommend doing the correct full shading for everything. So yeah, other than that though, the shading is overall pretty simple and not too difficult if you have a decent understanding of the fundamentals of shading already. So there you go, that is the final step. Alrighty, so then when you pull everything together, this is what you might get. You would get, a character that has shading himself, and then or herself or themselves, and then you would also get these transitions that you're seeing here that makes something look a little bit more metallic. When I first did this, so I actually redid the shading for the metal for this video, but when I first did this shading, I wanted this metal to not be quite as shiny. I wanted it to have like a slightly dulled transition right in here, but the very quick fix to that, if I wanted it to be shinier, would be right in here in particular. Oops, not on the right thing. Right in here in particular, just brighten that up quite a bit, and then add that transition like I showed you earlier, like right in here. And that's a very quick way to kind of, it's not great right there, but you get my point. But it's a very quick way to make it appear a little shinier if I wanted to. But that is the finished product. That is my cloud. And I hope that you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share it with friends. And other than that, though, I'm Manga Mike, and I'm out.